We are pleased to welcome you here in Moscow these days.
My enormous pleasure.
Yes, for this Russophile international movement. And I would like to ask about your understanding of Russophile mission and your role in this area.
Well, I have the honor to be one of the founding members. My name is on the chart.
Okay.
So I have a responsibility as well. And I take this responsibility very seriously because I was never part of any club in my life. Never.
And why you decided to be a part of this club?
Because this is a civilizational and cultural struggle. And Russia is at the forefront of the civilizational war against what I would call a nihilist West. I am a product of the West. I was born in the West. I studied in the West. I started my professional career in the West. I moved to Asia 30 years ago. And then I started to understand Asia from the inside. And I started coming to Russia constantly. And now my third home in the world is here.
And what exactly is your industry now?
I was a reporter for a long time.
Okay.
A foreign correspondent for 39 years, in fact, all over the world, literally. I worked in Western Europe.
Extreme travel.
Yeah, it's a lot of travel. So I worked in Western Europe a lot, in the US and also in Canada, and all over Asia. So everything that happens from Washington to Vladivostok, I have to know what's going on. And the great thing is that I went everywhere. So you have to go to these places to know what's going on. Same thing with Russia. You cannot understand Russia without coming to Russia and traveling in Russia. And I still have a long list of places in Russia that I need to go. The list is enormous, you know.
Yeah.
And these past 30 years, I'm learning all the time. I remember the first election of President Putin 24 years ago. I was here. Covering it for a major newspaper in Brazil.
Oh my goodness.
So I spent 1 month in Moscow in March 2000, and I learned a lot about what happened in Russia in the 90s. But we didn't know what was going to happen afterwards.
For sure.
And when you compare Russia now to Russia 24 years ago, from our point of view as foreigners, it's absolutely mind-boggling. Russia now is not only a superpower in every sense of the world, but I would say it's also a spiritual power and a moral power.
And I think that every country dreamed about a president like Putin.
If you ask about Putin in Latin America, in Africa, in Southeast Asia, in India, in China, he's the most respected politician in the world. Everybody knows this. The numbers tells us, the polls tells us. And if you talk to people in the streets, they're, of course, Putin, great leader. Which is something that in the West, now we only have essentially extremely mediocre people who are there because of connections, because people pay their elections, you name it, you know. And obviously, if you put side by side on a stage, Putin against any European leader, not to mention the current president of the US, we all know what's going to happen.
Okay.
And everybody knows what's going to happen.
Yes, for sure. And are you happy with the result of Russophile movement since 2023?
It's starting. It's a new movement. We need to build a network all over the world. For instance, before talking to you, I met a lot of Africans. This is essential. We need an African network.
Yes, we spread
a Latin American network. A Chinese, there are a lot of Indians as well. There is a Chinese delegation. So we need a global network of people who not only understand the role of Russia, but also understand that the global South as a whole is forging the future.
Yes.
The future is not in the West
You
anymore.
also the future.
And you are hearing this from somebody from the West.
Yeah.
And this is what I learned in my last 30 years of traveling everywhere. The future is in Eurasia and in Asia,
Yeah.
together, this region. So President Putin once said from Lisbon to Vladivostok. I would say it's more like from Istanbul to Vladivostok. You know, this is the future.
Okay. And last question about your expectation for this year. What will be your main projects, maybe ideas, and team?
Well,
team. Do you have team maybe?
Yes, we have 2 days of discussions. I would say with a network that represents a great part of the developing world, at the global south at least. So we need to start getting deeper into our links and connections. Very important theme, the information war.
Yeah.
Because the West does one thing very, very well. They control the narrative. So if they control the narrative, they win the information war. So all of us from now on, we have to know how to use their weapons against them.
Yes, and I think that topic of cybersecurity is the most important area.
You're absolutely right. And Russia is very strong in cybersecurity. China is also very strong in cybersecurity. That helps.
Yes, I think that next days will be very interesting and grateful. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Enormous pleasure.
Yes.
Thank you.
Pleasure.